So, what is anemia and how do we define anemia? Anemia can be defined in a few ways. The first one is reduced number of red blood cells. And also, it's not wrong if you say anemia is the reduction of hemoglobin, hematocrit, RBC, and also RBC count. So what is hematocrit? Hematocrit is the volume percentage of RBC in the blood, and sometimes it's called packed cell volume. The RBC count is the number of RBC in the blood, and which usually expressed as millions per how many millions of RBC per microliter, or how many millions of RBC per cubic millimeter. So you need to know that anemia is not a diagnosis. It is actually a presentation of underlying condition, and you can see here the difference between the normal individual with enough red blood cells and also anemia in which the red blood cells are reduced. And normal HB usually, the normal HB level usually varies with age, gender, ethnic, and also physiological status. And WHO has defined according to the gender is when HB is less than 12 gram per deciliter is anemia for women, and also for men it will be less than 13 gram per deciliter. And you need to understand also that cut-off point varies between lab and the instruments. So this is how we classify anemia. One way of classification of anemia is based on the severity. And as I have mentioned before, WHO will define anemia based on the age and gender and the physiological status. So in this table, it showed anemia can be divided into mild, moderate, and severe based on the level of HB. Please note here the HB unit is gram per liter, so it is quite different from gram per deciliter, which is usually used in our lab. So for example, I take example of men 15 years of age and above. So non-anemia is when the anemia in the HB is 130 gram per liter or higher, or 13 gram per deciliter or higher. So the anemia can be mild when the HB is 110 to 129 gram per deciliter, or 11 to 12.9 gram per deciliter. Moderate is around 80 to 109 gram per liter, and severe anemia is when the HB for men lower than 8 gram per liter. The HB is when the HB is lower than 80 gram per liter, or lower than 8 gram per deciliter. So it's very easy to it can be confusing, but it's very easy to convert from gram to liter to gram per deciliter. So how important is anemia? So this map is to show you the prevalence of anemia in women of reproductive age around the world. So you can see here the severe anemia is illustrated by the darker red compared to the mild anemia, which is the pink color. So the prevalence of anemia among women of reproductive age is very prevalent throughout the world. So it is a very important public health issues. Okay, so now what you know so far, you take a pause, and then whatever that you know so far, you write it in a piece of paper. Okay. What cytokine regulates erythropoiesis? And define anemia. And whether it is true or false, age does not influence the diagnosis of anemia. Okay, so this is the second session of the topic. I will see you in the next session.